All right, let's look at the homework 2.1, 2.2, problem number 9. All right, so we want to find an equation of the line that is tangent to the graph of f and also parallel to the given line. All right, so whenever you want to find an equation of a line, we need two pieces of information. And the first piece of information is a point. So I'm going to call this guy x1, comma y1. Right? And the second piece of information is the slope. So I'm going to call it m. Right? Since the tangent line we're looking for is parallel to this given line, so it's going to have the same slope. So I'm going to rewrite this equation. Let's see, I'm going to subtract x and add 12. So that we have a 4y is equal to negative x plus 12. Right? Then we can just divide through by 4 so that the y is all by itself. So we're going to have a negative 1 over 4 x plus 12 by 4 is 3. Right? But the slope that we're looking for is negative 1/4. Right? So we have m is equal to negative 1/4. Right? The problem is we don't know x1 and y1. Right? So the way to find that is to do this. We're gonna go ahead and find the derivative of f of x. Right? So let's go ahead and do that. So f prime of x. Right? So I'm gonna use the definition here. So it's going to be a limit as delta x approaches 0, right? Then we have f of x plus delta x minus f of x over delta x, right? So this is just a definition. So this is going to be limit as delta x approaches 0. Right? So if you want to find f of x plus delta x, we just replace x by x plus delta x. So we're going to get x plus delta x squared minus x plus delta x. Right? Minus f of x, so it's going to be x squared minus x. And divided by delta x, right? Then I'm going to just multiply all out. So limit as delta x approaches 0, right? So if you multiply out, we get this, right? X squared plus 2 times x times delta x, so it's a 2x times delta x. And then plus delta x squared. Right? Then we also distribute this negative sign to each term there. So we're going to get the negative x minus delta x. Right? And the same thing, we have a negative sign distributed to each term. We're going to get the negative x squared plus x all over delta x. All right, then we can cancel positive x squared and a negative x squared. And there's negative x and there's a positive x. All right, then we have 3 terms left over. So here is 2x delta x. And here is delta x squared, and then you have a minus delta x. So all 3 terms have delta x in it, so I'm going to factor out delta x. So limit as delta x approaches 0. Alright, so since delta x is in common, so I'm going to factor it out. So if you pull delta x, you're going to get the 2x left over from there. Second term, you put delta x out, so you're going to have another one. And if you factor delta x from negative delta x, will be negative 1 over delta x. Right? So we can cancel delta x on top and delta x on the bottom. And then as delta x approaches 0, so this term actually goes away because it approaches 0. And what you get is equal to 2x minus 1. Right? So, to find the slope, what you can do is we can actually also use the derivative and then plug in the x1 value. So you have plugging x1 value, which is going to be, so we put x1 there, so you have a 2x1 minus 1, right? So we have this equation that we can solve. So you have 2x1 minus 1 is equal to negative 1/4, right? So we can simply add 1 to both sides. So you have a 2x1 is equal to negative 1/4 plus 1 is 3/4, right? Then we can just divide through by 2 so that we have x1 value, which is 3 over 8. Right? So once you have x1 value, y1 can be found by simply use the original function and plug in x1. Right? But in this case, f of x is x squared minus x, and we're plugging in 3 over 8. So it's going to be 3 over 8 squared minus 3 over 8. Right, so this is going to be, let's see, 8 times 8 is 64, and 3 squared would be 9, right, minus, right, 8, so I'm going to multiply by 8, so that's a 64, and multiply by 8, 24, right, so this is going to be negative 15 over 64, right? So the equation of the line is going to be, so we found that to be, this is 3 over 8, and then y1 is negative 15 over 64, right? So the equation of the line is going to be y minus y1. So it's going to be plus 15 over 64 is equal to negative 1/4 times quantity x minus x1 is 3 over 8. All right, then I'm going to distribute this negative quarter to each term. Then we get negative 1/4 x, negative and negative, positive 3 over 32, right? Then we just simply subtract 15 over 64, then so that we have a y is isolated, so it's a negative 1/4 x. Right, then we're going to subtract, let's say 15 over 64, so this is what, so we have, 3 over 32 is 6 over 64, and we're subtracting 15 over 64, right? So this is going to be negative 1/4 x minus 9 over 64. All right, so let's type it in. All right, so we got negative 1 over 4 x minus 9 over 64. All right, let's check the answer. All right, I came back and it looks like we got this one correctly. All right, that's it. I hope that this was clear.